Good day, my menopausal marvels. Thank you for coming to Menopause University today. I'm your menopausal teacher, Menopause Taylor. I'm odd in that I just love menopause. I love everything about it. And I try to impart that passion by sharing my knowledge on it with you. My goal is to give you the best education possible on menopause. Another thing I love is food, and I'm sure you do too. So we'll be talking about food today. Even though I'm a gynecologist rather than a dietitian, I present everything in this education, including the effect of diet on your menopause. And I present everything in units. In every unit, I give you all your management options for managing that particular aspect of menopause. And that includes your dietary options for managing that particular aspect of menopause. Well, this is the breast cancer unit. We started it way back in video number 356, and this is video number 400, the 45th video in the unit. Like I said, I give you the best education possible. And there's no way you'll get a good education by learning a few sound bites here and there and hearing this and hearing that while trying to make sense of it all. If you watch all my videos in order, starting at the first one, there is no way you won't understand everything. And I'm very careful to dispel all your misconceptions as I teach you all the facts about menopause also. So be aware that if you skip any videos, you are definitely missing something that is vital to your education. Thus far in the breast cancer unit, I've presented normal breast anatomy and function, followed by breast cancer and all that it entails. Now we're ready to discuss the things you can do to prevent breast cancer. So this is the first video on your management options for preventing it. And this particular video will address your dietary options. So I guess you could call it the boob food for breast cancer prevention. I've heard some people use the term boob food to refer to the breast milk you feed your baby, but I'm using it to refer to the foods that decrease your risk of breast cancer. And please, 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 do not confuse prevention with treatment. This video is not on boob foods to treat breast cancer. Food alone is not capable of treating breast cancer once you already have it. Its capabilities fall into the realm of prevention. Nor is this a video on the foods that are best for other aspects of your menopausal management. These are the foods that are specific to prevention of breast cancer. So we'll be distinguishing breast friends from breast foes. Okay, if you have my book, you'll find this information in chapter 30, all of which is on breast cancer. In every unit on diseases, I've taught you about all the risk factors that contribute to that particular disease. And you've seen that I'm very specific about the details connecting each risk factor to each disease. In this breast cancer unit, you discovered that there is a very long list of risk factors that can increase your risk of getting breast cancer. You've seen it many times in previous videos, and here it is again. If you look down to the blue-colored section at the bottom of the chart, you see the lifestyle category of risk factors for breast cancer. And the first two have to do with your diet. They are high dietary fat intake and drinking alcohol in moderate quantities. I guess you could classify alcohol as either a dietary risk factor or a lifestyle risk factor, but I'm going to include it here with the dietary risk factors. What you've learned is that any time a risk factor increases your risk for a disease, you can decrease your risk by managing that particular risk factor accordingly. It makes perfect sense, and it's such a simple concept. What isn't so simple is instituting behaviors and habits that are consistent with limiting or omitting a particular risk factor. So let's discuss the specifics pertaining to your dietary fat intake and your alcohol consumption, specifically for purposes of breast cancer prevention, because they are both breast foes. Now, do not extrapolate any of this to other diseases. Everything I teach you today will pertain only to breast cancer. Generalizing a fact or soundbite to all diseases is one of the reasons most women stay confused about most things pertaining to breast cancer. As we discuss these two particular items, we'll address some other food items that may be of benefit too. So starting with dietary fat. The big ticket item that increases your risk of breast cancer is not dietary fat in general. Instead, it's just one particular kind of dietary fat. Animal fat. It's animal fat products only, okay? Now, there is substantial research showing a very strong relationship between consumption of animal fat and breast cancer. Now, I know you're probably tired of hearing that a 100% plant-based diet is the healthiest diet, but you know, when something keeps coming up over and over and over again as a means of preventing one disease after another, there has to be something to it. And that's what you've seen with a 100% plant-based diet. You learned in the heart attack unit that it's the very best diet for preventing a heart attack. And while most women fear breast cancer more than they fear a heart attack, their concerns are misplaced. Because heart attacks kill 1 out of every 2 women, while breast cancer kills only 1 out of every 29 women. But regardless of which of the two you fear the most, the fact that a 100% plant-based diet decreases your risk for both is fantastic. Eating animal fat significantly increases your risk of breast cancer, while omitting it significantly decreases your risk of breast cancer. And it adds up over time. The more red meat you ate as an adolescent, the higher your risk of breast cancer even now. That does not mean that it's too late to decrease your risk of breast cancer by adopting a 100% plant-based diet now. Even if you've consumed meat and dairy products your entire life, it's never too late. If you're in the habit of eating animal products, you probably really like them, or maybe absolutely love them. And you probably do not relish the idea of converting to a 100% plant-based diet. You may find the very thought of it overwhelming and really have no idea where to start. But regardless, when it comes to your boob food, plants are breast friends, while animals are breast foes. So let me just give you some tips on how to go about adopting a 100% plant-based diet without a lot of hassle in the event that you want to take advantage of this particular management option for decreasing your risk of breast cancer. And remember, this whole education is your menopause, your way. You do not have to do anything. You get to do whatever suits you. I'm just giving you the facts with which you can use them to decide what suits you and guide you on how to implement what suits you. So, if you want to try a 100% plant-based diet without a lot of hassle, Go to your grocery store and look for a freezer section labeled alternative meats. There, you'll find all sorts of frozen items that are plant-based substitutes for meat. There will be plant-based burgers, plant-based chicken nuggets, plant-based chicken breast, plant-based fish, plant-based meatballs, etc. Then go to the refrigerator section and look for another section labeled alternative meats or meat alternatives. Once again, you'll find refrigerated items that are plant-based substitutes for meats. Plant-based bacon, plant-based hot dogs, plant-based fajita meat, plant-based ground beef, plant-based seafood. These will all be made to resemble the actual meat products, but they will consist of plant products instead. They may be made with soy or tempeh or chickpeas or wheat gluten, also called seitan, or beans, or any vegetable. They will also taste quite similar to the meats they are imitating. And while they will qualify as processed foods, they will merely be a way for you to get started on a 100% plant-based diet without having to buy cookbooks and cook everything from scratch. You see, the reason most people fail at making changes like this is because they bite off more than they can chew, as they say. They try to change everything all at once, and that's just too overwhelming. You have to break it down into baby steps. So your first step is to start buying plant products to replace animal products. That's all. You can get to perfecting everything and reducing your processed food intake later. Next, go to the dairy section and once again, look for a label that says alternative dairy or dairy alternatives. And you'll find all the typical dairy products made with plant ingredients. You'll find soy milk, rice milk, almond milk, soy yogurts, soy cream cheese, soy sour cream, cashew cheeses, coconut milk products, etc., etc. It will be quite an adventure for you to see just how many plant-based alternatives there are. Go ahead and buy a bunch of stuff so that you can make the dishes you typically make with the real meat and dairy products using these alternatives instead of the actual meat and dairy. The goal is to make the transition easy. And having these substitutes on hand in your kitchen, but making the same old recipes that you always make, is the way to make it easy. Once you get used to eating these plant products in your typical dishes, then you can start focusing on reducing the quantity of processed foods you eat. Some of these plant products will not be processed foods. Others will. A significant factor will be where you live. If you live in a country with a lot of food processing by the food industry, a greater number will be processed than if you live in a country with very little processing by the food industry. Of course, eat as many fresh fruits and vegetables as you can. The fresh foods are what's most beneficial because the best food of all is fresh food. Fresh food is a best friend. The less processed food you eat, the better. You saw this same phenomenon in the unit on Alzheimer's disease. So now you see that both your brain and your breasts want the freshest food they can get. Processed meats alone increase your risk of breast cancer by 9%. So the ultimate goal will be to transition to a diet that consists of as many fresh foods as possible. But using alternative meats constitutes baby steps in reaching that goal. And by using plant substitutes, you will not feel like you've robbed yourself of your beloved meats, because animal food is a breast foe. Most of the alternative meats and dairy products have the same consistency as the real thing. And as you get more and more accustomed to omitting meat and dairy, along with its high saturated fat content, you will get used to eating a 100% plant-based diet. And your breasts will get used to having a lower risk of breast cancer. So, a 100% plant-based diet really is boob food. Make sure you understand that plant fats are actually beneficial. They decrease your risk of breast cancer. It's the animal fats that are the problem, not fat in general. I guess you could view this as a dichotomy between fresh plants versus processed animals. So how much benefit do you think you get by omitting all the animal fat from your diet? Well, it's probably a lot more than you imagine. If you do nothing but add fruit to your diet, you decrease your risk of breast cancer 7%. If you add cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts, you decrease your risk by 30%. And if you consume a 100% plant-based diet with a lot of plant fats, you decrease your risk by up to 68%. So give this some thought and decide if it's something you're willing to do. So you see, my analogy of the breast salad to the anatomy of your breasts in the very first video of this unit was somewhat of a double entendre. You'll notice that a lot of the alternative meat and dairy products are made with soy. Well, it turns out that soy decreases your risk of breast cancer by 18% if you eat it regularly. But it's dietary soy in the form of food that has this effect. It is not the same for soy supplements, which I'll address in a later video. And of course, this too depends on whether or not the soy is processed or modified. And that may depend on where you live too. But generally speaking, soy is a breast friend. Another dietary measure you'll see cited as a means of helping to prevent breast cancer is the Mediterranean diet. You should really just think of the Mediterranean diet as essentially a vegan diet with fatty fish. That's the way in which it will benefit your breasts the most. The cheese in the Mediterranean diet is certainly not going to decrease your risk of breast cancer, and neither is the alcohol, which is our next topic. Which is worse, giving up your animal products or giving up your alcohol? Well, never forget that this education is all about managing your menopause your way. You get to do whatever you want. I'm just giving you facts so that you can make your decisions and choices in a way that will result in accomplishing your goals. Most women are not aware of the fact that one of the most common symptoms of both peri and postmenopause is craving alcohol. So the fact that alcohol increases your risk for breast cancer is a very unwelcome discovery for many women. And the fact that omitting alcohol can decrease your risk of breast cancer is difficult for some women to accept. Of all the dietary items, alcohol has the strongest association with breast cancer. Women who enjoy their alcohol want to believe that it is only excessive alcohol consumption that increases their risk for breast cancer. And they want to believe that if that's the case, they can still enjoy their daily glass or two of wine. But such is not the case. Instead, there is a direct relationship between the quantity of alcohol you consume and your risk for breast cancer. The more alcohol you consume, the higher your risk. Alcohol is definitely a breast foe. The same direct relationship exists with regard to omitting alcohol as a means of decreasing your risk for breast cancer. So you decrease your risk of breast cancer the most by completely omitting alcohol altogether. Now, for purposes of breast cancer risk, one drink is defined as 12 ounces or 355 milliliters of beer, 8 ounces or 237 milliliters of malt liquor, 5 ounces or 150 milliliters of wine, and 1.5 ounces or 44 milliliters of 80 proof spirits. If you consume even one alcoholic drink a day, it increases your risk of breast cancer by 60%. So, just a single glass of red wine daily has a big impact on increasing your risk of breast cancer. And omitting alcohol can decrease your risk by a lot. Now, recall that in the case of heart attack, one glass of red wine daily actually decreases your risk of a heart attack. You see, this is why you have to be specific about each disease. If your greatest risk is heart attack, maybe that one glass of red wine daily is a good idea. But if your greatest risk is breast cancer, it isn't. Do you see how adopting the dietary habits to decrease your risk of one disease may actually decrease your risk of multiple diseases? Or a particular diet may even decrease your risk for one disease and increase your risk for another. The 100% plant-based diet decreases your risk for both heart attack and breast cancer. But a glass of red wine daily decreases your risk of heart attack and increases your risk of breast cancer. So in summary, the two dietary measures that can decrease your risk of breast cancer are omitting all animal fat and omitting all alcohol. I know that may sound boring, and I often say the healthier your lifestyle, the more boring your social life. But that's the boob food diet. And the bottom line is simple. It's either a plant or not, and it's either alcohol or not. As long as you eat plants and avoid alcohol, you will be eating boob food that is breast friendly. Understand that animal fat and alcohol are the known dietary risk factors for breast cancer. There are probably others, but they haven't been studied effectively enough to designate them as risk factors. So avoiding them is not listed as a means of preventing breast cancer. This is always the case. We are constantly striving to enhance our knowledge about ways of preventing breast cancer. As you learn more and more, you get to pick and choose the management options that you will best use to manage your menopause your way. You get to do whatever you want. You do not have to answer to anybody. You are the only person who has to live with the consequences. Have you noticed that I never tell you what to do? Heck, I don't even recommend anything. This is not an education on your menopause management my way. What you do is entirely up to you. I am just a vessel for the facts. Okay, so that's all for today. Our next video will be on the lifestyle measures for preventing breast cancer. So go eat some boob food and come back in a week. In the meantime, go to menopausetailor.me to schedule a consultation. Subscribe right here and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Stories. Bye!